Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about a sequence that most amateur golfers get dead wrong. In fact, I gave a lesson the other day to a gentleman who had this exact problem. I gave several lessons on this, but this gentleman in particular had this exact problem. I showed him what I'm going to show you in today's video. It made a huge difference for him in terms of consistency of contact, how well he hits the ball, and it's going to do the same for you. Let's dive right into it. I'm going to explain it and show you a drill and a feel that you can work on to help you get the sequence correct as well. Now, the gentleman that I was working with, and I put this club, roughly down my toe line, and we're going to see, it doesn't need to be perfect, somewhere roughly down my toe line. And we're going to show some pros on the screen in particular. I think we have Tommy Fleetwood, Adam Scott, and Rory McIlroy in there to show you some examples of how this works. When we look at really good golfers and good ball strikers, their sequencing in terms of where their hands, arms, and club are relative to their body goes like this. They're able to keep the club and their hands, arms in front early, and then they get it behind them on the way back and an early transition. So what we want, the good sequence, what these ball strikers will do, is in front early, and then you work the club behind you. What this gentleman that I was working with, and what you might have, and I see this a lot, is a lot of amateur golfers get behind them early, and then they got nowhere to go but in front of them as they come down. And there's our dreaded over-the-top steep issues. So the sequence we want to learn is in front and then behind. I saw this similar video from Adam Porzak, shout out to them for the title and thumbnail inspiration. And he had a really good video on this, and this drill I think will really help you. When we make a backswing, and this is what I'm seeing a lot, the gentleman in front, and the concept to try and get the hands working from inside, and we know we want to shallow the club from inside on the way down, which we do, but in an effort to do that, a lot of us are getting it too deep too early. The body is turning too much too soon, and the club is way too inside under plane. If we drew a line up from the club at setup, the shaft angle, that's the shaft plane, you'll see these great players go back right on line with that. Now, we know we got to swing from inside, so a lot of us will go whoop right inside early. The problem is we've got an equal and opposite action-reaction. Almost always, not all the time, but almost always, when we go too far under early, we're going to get too far out in front coming down. A lot of golfers will come in to see me. I had another gentleman last week. He said, Eric, I'm really trying to swing from inside, and I can do it from like a little drill, but anytime I make a bigger swing, I'm never able to do it. I don't know why. And it took me all of about watching him hit one ball to say, well, the reason is because when you go back, you go like this, and your brain always wants to react to that naturally by coming too far over. The solution is, like those pros, keep it in front early, and then get depth on the way back, and when we come down. Now, a simple way to practice this is just putting a club down your toe line. And I'll show you I brought a little foam roller just to make the visual a little easier. But what I want to start with is just to give you a visual when you're practicing. You'll be able to see this with me and on the screen. Notice the Tommy, the Adam Scott, right, the Rory, how when they go back, if I drew a line up their toe line here, how their arms and hands stay in front of that. Their arms and hands stay in front of that. From there, from this position, roughly club parallel to the ground, right? Now they're not going way out. It's, more or less straight back. Talk about the body turn in a moment. But from here, the club in front, now you'll notice their hands go deep, up and back to the point where they get behind the trail shoulder from down the line. And then also notice that they're able to then flow that, which is the whole point, in front early, in front of the toe line with the handle and the club. Then they go up and back behind their shoulder. Then when they come down, you'll notice from here, they get their hands or butt of the club roughly back on that toe line with all of the club back behind it. And that's where they're in a position then to swing from inside. So by staying in front on the way back makes it easier and possible to swing from inside on the way down. By swinging too far inside on the way back makes it way more difficult. That's always going to make you go over this way. So when I was working with the gentleman, right, we put a little club down the line like this. And I'll put a little foam roller in here just to help you in a moment to see it. Hopefully you can see the club there as well. I said, let's make some swings here, just practice swings, where when we go back, let's feel like our hands are almost right down this club line, but the club head and the shaft itself are slightly outside or to the left of it. Okay, so let's get a sense of what that feels like. Now, the gentleman I was working with and what you might have with this really inside and under, was way too much body turn too early and way too much forearm rotation. Okay, body turn. Let's think about your backswing, right? If we made a full backswing, when we start, we're at 0 degrees of a shoulder turn, right? Body turn. At the top of the backswing, we're trying to get to 90. So we're going from 0 to 90. But the backswing you can think about in like thirds, okay? So from the setup to the top, we want to get 90 degrees of turn. But I don't want to get 60 of that right away. For the first third of my swing, which is setup to takeaway, how much turn should I have? About a third of the total. What's the total? 90 degrees. What's a third of that? Right about 30, 33%. So from setup to takeaway, my chest and shoulder shouldn't turn a whole lot. There's a little bit of turn with a little bit of tilt, but a lot of people, to try and get this big backswing turn, I'm seeing way too much turn way too early. And then where's the club? Too far under. Where's that gonna go? In front on the way down. That's the wrong sequence. We wanna have a little bit less chest and shoulder turn. There's some, it's still, the takeaway is still guided by the chest and shoulders, but I don't need 60 degrees of rotation. I just need a little bit. Now it's easy with a little bit less turn. My gentleman I was with felt like he was turning like nothing. Porzak says, hey, only feel about 10%. Feel about 10% of your total turn right there, right? It's just a feel. My guy who was going like this, we felt almost no chest and shoulder, keep the club in front. Now from that spot, this is a third of the way. Now I've got to do 2/3, the rest of my turning from there to the top to get my hands behind my shoulder, right? So a lot of that chest turn, a lot of that body turn should come not from setup to the takeaway, but from the takeaway to the top. That makes it easy to keep them in when you come down then. Okay, you see that difference? And you'll see that in those swings. Different players do it different ways, but if you're the player who goes way inside early and has this sequence of under over, we've got to reverse that. Starts with that shoulder tilt. So when we were hitting, a shoulder turn and tilt, we're going to say we're going to do a couple of rehearsals. Feel the club stay in front. The shaft is to the left of or in front of this shaft line. My hands didn't go way out nor way in, pretty much straight back, right? Little bit of chest and shoulder turn, not a ton from here. Same thing with my hips. My hips are going from 0 to 45 at the top. I don't want to have all that hip rotation right away. How much hip rotation? Just a little bit, a third of it, 15 degrees, very little. Not a lot of turn here. Okay, feel what that feels like. Then from there, let's start getting that turn going. Let's get the hands behind the shoulder and then keep them under the shoulder. So when you're thinking about the hands or the shaft, we're trying to go in front, feel that once or twice, then feel that from here, I'm in front, get that big turn, get my hands behind my shoulder, and then keep that shaft underneath my shoulder. And this will look like those players where they get the butt of the club and hands back down the toe line, but the shaft is behind them. This is the sequence we're looking for. And I ended up with this gentleman doing that sort of 3-shot practice routine, right? That looked like that. I'd say let's go in front, not a lot of chest and shoulder, that's 1. In front, that's 2. Now let's feel that in front, but let's get deep to the top and keep it deep. So I feel like from here, the arms and hands are in front. I turn to get behind my shoulder, and then I'm keeping the shaft and arms in underneath the shoulder when I come down. But you really want to focus on this first part, right? 2 or 3 rehearsals, we'll hit a shot. I'm going to feel the same thing. Arms and hands in front early, not a lot of body turn, and then big turn from there, get the hands behind your shoulder. In front early, then behind us is the sequence that we want. In front early, then behind us. That's the sequence that we're looking to get when we're hitting. And the more you have the opposite sequence, the more you have the big turn early and over, the more you got to exaggerate this. And I've been guilty of this. I see this a lot. It's in an effort to get this bigger turn, we try and just do a lot right away, but then we get stuck. We got nowhere to go but up and out, right? So same things here. And I've got a little, I'm hitting a 9-iron. This applies for all clubs. Feel it in front early. Feel that club head and shaft are outside the toe line. Same thing. Now take that back behind my shoulder, keep it back. Here, in front, in front, in front to behind my shoulder. In front, in front, in front to behind my shoulder. And I'm feeling like when I'm doing that to the top, in front, and then behind my shoulder, that allows me to keep the club working from inside on the way down. And we ended up using this club on the ground as a simple reference point for that too. You'll see this with these pro models. They go in front, then they get their turn in depth. They keep it in, like I mentioned, the hands get back on the toe line, the shaft's behind, you'll see that. And then once they get back down to parallel, you know, that club is getting delivered basically right down that 3 o'clock, or the club head just slightly inside the hands. I always tell you guys to feel like you're under 4 as an exaggeration, because most of us are out over 2. But where we really want to get the club is about down over 3 or just slightly inside. Then we can use our body motions on the way through. But the biggie here, in front and then behind. In front and then behind. Okay, in front, depth, back down over 3. In front or outside of 3, depth behind the shoulder, return, back down to 3. That's the sequence that we're looking for. In front to behind, not behind to in front. In front to behind. And there's the same thing, nice strike, very straight shot. So that's the sequencing. Okay, if you're coming from the opposite side, you've got to do that and exaggerate. Now, the second part I mentioned, just real quick, is with the arm rotation. Okay, if you're going the wrong sequence, underplane, odds are you've got too much body turn too soon. Okay, we talked about that. Also, odds are that you have too much arm rotation, which gets the club underplane. That would be like, imagine I'm driving a steering wheel, if I'm holding from my angle, and turning that steering wheel too much clockwise. Too much clockwise. When I do that clockwise arm rotation, so to the right, back this way, too much arm rotation puts the club 2 under. Then I'm right back to square one. Boom, over the top. So as I limit a little bit of body rotation early, I also want to limit arm rotation. That will help keep the club head slightly outside my hands early. And then I get my depth, and I'll get the opposite, which I want that clockwise now, to keep it inside. So just a little bit of note there. As I'm limiting my body turn, I'm also going to probably limit my arm rotation. My body's not turning a lot. My shoulder's going down a little bit. My arm's staying pretty connected to my chest, but it's outside here early, turn and depth, and then it's the timing of the turn. We want a nice full turn, but it's the timing. We get 2/3 of that from the takeaway to the top. So do not overdo it too early. It's outside, a little bit of body turn, not a lot of body turn, less arm rotation. Then you get your depth to the top. In front to deep. And that's the motion that we're looking for. So guys, that's the sequence we're looking for, in front to behind. You'll see variations of that with some of the best players in the world, okay? Now, how much you need to do this depends on where you're coming from. I can't say for sure without seeing your swing, right? Which is why we built CogornoGolf.com. We've got the best coaches in the world. I think we have the best online coaching team in the world at CogornoGolf.com for a fraction of, like literally 20% of the price to come see me in person. You get like 80 to 90% of the results you would get anyway. CogornoGolf.com. Send your swings in. Let us evaluate your swing, see exactly pinpoint what you need to work on. We've had thousands and thousands of students successfully and get huge gains. Would love to help you with your game. Send your swings there. Any comments, of course, or questions, leave them down below. Consider clicking that like button. Maybe send this to a friend. All that helps us out. Appreciate you guys watching.